Good morning. How's everybody doing today? Madam President said that she left an ice storm in Cleveland, and she should have been here the other day. It was pretty cold here in Atlanta. So first of all, I want to just thank you all for coming. Thank you all for inviting me. And I want to, before we start this wonderful conversation, I just want everybody to introduce themselves. Dr. Joseph.
Good morning, everybody. Just happy to be here. I am Jan Joseph. Sometimes I'm called Dr. Jan Joseph or Madam President. But I serve as the president of Georgia Gwinnett College, which is in Lawrenceville, just up in Gwinnett County. I have been in that role almost 7 years. This is my 7th year as president, and I came to that role from various leadership positions in the Midwest, in Indiana and Michigan. I just am very proud to serve in this role. You may or may not know it, but Georgia Gwinnett College has the distinction of the most diverse campus in the Southeast region and up in the first top 3 of the most diverse campuses in the whole nation. We have a population that somewhere on averaging about 33% Black students, about 29% Hispanic students, about 26 to 27% white students, and somewhere in the region about 12% Asian Pacific Islander students. So we are an extremely diverse campus. I invite you to visit. Just walking around at Georgia Gwinnett College, you get a chance to walk into the future. So very proud to serve there.
Nice to see you. I'm going to be coming to do some stories on you.
Absolutely. You're welcome anytime.
Good morning, everybody. My name is George Lewis. I'm at Clayton State University, president there. I've been at Clayton State a little less than 3 years. It'll be 3 years in February. I've been in higher education since 1994, so that's, wow, 31 years right now. 31, I think, yes. 6 different institutions, 3 states during that time. I'm from Pennsylvania, so the president coming from Cleveland in the snowstorm, I understand exactly what that is about. Clayton State University, 6,400 students. We're a state university, actually the only 4-year institution in the Southern Crescent here of Atlanta, so we're happy to serve all the Southern Crescent. Welcome to Clayton County, everybody here. I think we are in Clayton County today, so welcome to Clayton County. And so looking forward to having the discussion with each and every one of you today. Our demographics are similar. I'll talk a little bit more about that later, but we're a minority-serving institution, a predominantly Black institution. About 80% of our students are considered underrepresented, lots of first generation, low income, et cetera, but we'll talk a bit more about that later. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, and I'm pleased to have known George Lewis a long time, and Jan since she's been in the system. I'm a Georgia native, so I guess I'm the exception now on the list. John Futchka, I serve as president of Dalton State College. I'm sometimes called president, sometimes called doctor, sometimes called other things. Probably the most interesting thing beyond all that is Papa, and because my wife and I have 12 children, so that's probably the most relevant point that I'll bring up a little bit later in some of what we'll be talking about. I'm also a colonel in the Georgia Army National Guard, so I've been in there for 24 years and done some combat tours and all of that sort of thing. So brings me a little different perspective, I think, sometimes on higher ed. I'm in my 3rd year at Dalton State. Before that, I was at Columbus State as the interim president for a year, and then a vice chancellor with the university system for quite some time prior to that. Dalton State College is Georgia's first Hispanic-serving institution, which is basically a federal designation that says that 25% or more of your students identify as Latino, and they've done so for 3 years. So we are actually 39% Latino, which really reflects kind of the population of our area. Dalton is the carpet and flooring capital of the world, and has been really kind of this interesting mix of Appalachian culture and a lot of Latino culture all kind of blended together in a really unique sort of way in Northwest Georgia, and it's reflective at our campus. We're about 50% first generation. That goes up and down and just shy of 5,600 students, which is actually close to a record for us as an institution. So we're excited about that, and we're very happy to be here, and happy to be here with my wonderful colleagues and the AJC. It's a paragon right here.
Well,
So
thank you very much. So let's get into it.
Yep.
And I know we had some pre-conversations early, so I know you guys like to talk. So we're going to have a nice rollicking conversation. So, jump in if, you want to jump in. So first question, why do you feel the workforce will be such a challenge over the next few years? And to start with you, Dr. Joseph.
So I would just say, we don't like to talk, we get paid to talk. But I think the workforce is going to be a challenge, not just over the next few years, but I think it has always been a challenge to support the workforce, and it would always be because we seem to be behind a curveball. We're always behind the curve, especially in the last, say, 20, 30 years. The workforce has been changing dramatically. We're going to be talking about AI and all these things later in our conversation and in the program as well. And the problem is for higher ed in particular, for all of us in the business of education, is always about trying to read the future. So we're constantly asking, what's coming next? So what has happened from where I see it is not only that we are always behind, but the workforce is accelerating faster than we could catch up. So I think the challenge for the next few years is not just that we have always been trying to catch up, but now we have to try and catch up to something that's moving faster and faster and faster. That's why I see the challenge is going to be for us.
Thank you, Jan. I don't know if I get paid to talk. My cabinet would say I get paid to be quiet. However, to the question, I think it's the unknown.
Okay.
Many of the jobs in the future, we don't really know what they are. I was reading the other day, and I'm going to try to say this the right way. 60 to 65% of students entering primary school, whenever they start working, those jobs don't exist right now. So 65%. So I think the big challenge is us just knowing, and it's our responsibility as educators to work with business and industry to try to stay ahead or try to catch up so we know the skills that our students will need in the programs that are necessary to meet that workforce demand. But I think a big part is, I would circle back to the big part is the unknown.
Okay.
Yeah, so I promised I'd follow up on the 12 kids comment and see where this all
Everybody
makes
wants to know
sense.
about that.
Right, everybody wants to know about that. Yeah, 6 boys, 6 girls, all single birth, all R's, 26 to 5. There we go. Just to get away all the questions later.
That was my next question.
Yeah, sorry. So we have an imperative, I believe, around economic inclusion, but we have a challenge around it. I'm going to tell you what that challenge is. And it's honestly, it's fertility rates in this country. The most recent numbers is 1.55. Does anybody know what replacement is? Keep a level population. It's 2.1. We're all in some form of business, industry, et cetera. That means 25 years from now, for every 4 customers, you have 3. For every 4 students, you have 3. In theory, for every 4 businesses, you have 3, right? For your customers, for your people working them, et cetera. We cannot, from an economic competitiveness perspective, leave anybody out of the workforce. Because we can't afford to have people not participate and not be able to move themselves and their families forward. And that's the conversation we have quite often up in Northwest Georgia. Obviously, we have industry there that's very, people dependent. And sure, there's innovation, there's technology, there's AI, there's all of these things. But I think people are still going to be front and center for everything we do, because that's been the whole story of humanity, right? When we don't have people front and center, bad things happen. So I think from an educational perspective, I tend to present it within our region as if we don't have the things in place, which I think is quality healthcare, quality K through 12 education, and quality higher ed that's affordable and accessible and inclusive, where people can go and they can change their family and their family's trajectory in their lives, and they can be there and they can work there and they can grow there, then we fail as a region, we fail as a state, ultimately we fail as a country, because once again, we've got to hold on to that most precious resource, which is people, because we are, they say you can't make more. You obviously can, but demographically we're not. And that, I think, is our biggest economic challenge, which spills over to every industry we've got. It won't show up today, it won't show up tomorrow, but over the next 15 to 20 to 25 years, if we don't get our arms around this in some way, we're really going to be struggling.
Okay, so I want to start with you with this question, since you still have the mic. You mentioned hold on to people, and Dr. Lewis talked about the unknown. You both talked about the unknown. So what are the generational needs to gain a greater percentage of people in the workforce? And let's start with you, Doctor.
You know, I think there's this kind of this strange mix, right? I think on the one hand, you have to have a place, and I think place is important, right? Technology and distance learning is great for a lot of folks, but I think particularly for us, with a lot of first-generation college students, I think our students often do better in a classroom with people where they feel welcome, where they feel like they're, that they belong there. And we talk about a culture of belonging at our campus that I want every single student, I don't care what their background is, economic, racial, beliefs, whatever it might be, I want them to feel like they belong at the college. And sometimes it's telling them, just very directly, you belong at the college, and reinforcing that and reiterating that from the president on down. But there's another side to this, and it's setting expectations and setting high expectations. We pride ourselves on that. I know that my colleagues pride themselves on that. Probably one of the most insidious things I think we can do as educators is to tell certain groups or certain categories or any individual, you know what, we don't know that you can quite live up to the standards. We're gonna make that standard easier. No, you hold them to a high standard, because every one of these students, if they can get into our college, they're capable of achieving that standard. We got to have the supports in place, so if they need help, they can get help. I'll tell you, I tell 3 things to every incoming student. I talk to every student, every parent at orientation. I won't go over all 3, but I'll mention 2. One of those is, you're probably going to fail at something your first year, and that's okay. Get the help afterwards, and then make sure that we have the help in place to do that. And I think that resonates with a lot of people that they do that. And then the second thing, this sounds really easy, go to class. Because we got in some bad habits after COVID and everything else of, well, it's not that important. And I'm like, well, you know, in college, if you skip 2 classes, you've skipped a week.
Yeah.
That's not what they're used to in high school. And sometimes y'all have parents come up to me, I'll have students come up to me, and sometimes I'll have the students come up halfway through the semester, and they'll say, Dr. Fuchika, I was really upset. I bombed this test. And they're like, but you told me it was okay if I failed, and I'm getting help for it. And they're like, their mental health is improving as a result. And then some will also come up and say, yeah, I kind of missed a few classes, and you were right. Some of those basic things, making people feel welcome, making them feel like they belong, but also holding them to high standards and high expectations, that I find is what, that joy of them mastering that later is just, it's really powerful. And we've seen it in our retention rates, we've seen it in our graduation rates, we've seen it in our enrollment, the impact of that culture.
All right. Dr. Lewis?
So I was so connected to what you were saying, John. I need you to ask that question again.
Okay, I got to find it. Okay. What are the generational needs to gain a greater percentage of folks in the workforce?
Okay, generational needs. Maybe I'll for the sake of conversation, take a different perspective. The baby boomers are retiring. Mm-hmm. And so since the baby boomers are retiring, those positions need to be replaced. And there's just not, I guess there's 2 things. There's not replacements, or not full replacements, but the workforce has changed so much that the skill set that's needed is different. with AI that, everybody, we're all embracing. We have to. If we want our students to be successful, we have to embrace it in an ethical way. But these are skills that are needed now. So there needs to be an opportunity for us to reach back for those who have college credit. There's many that have college credit, but no degree. And so how do we reach that population and reskill them so it could help support the workforce? One thing I will mention, an example, at Clayton State, if a student is attending and they stop, we call them stop-outs. And many of our stop-outs are adults. And we can actually determine if those stop-outs went to school someplace else through something called the clearinghouse. And so last year, or a year, we had 2,500 students over time that took some courses, didn't graduate. And so we reached out to them. Now, this number may not be overly impressive, but it goes back to the difference you were talking about in your introduction. Of those 2,500, 200 came back to school, and of those 200, I think 50 or 60 are close to graduation now, and there's another 60 that's going to graduate in the next year. So that's 120 people that now are going to have a college degree, they're going to be skilled up, they'll have an opportunity to change their life and their family's lives for generations as a result of us reaching back. So we have to find a way to reach back because the people aren't necessarily there. We're not producing at the rate that John's producing children. So since we're not producing like that, there is a workforce. We just have to find them and create opportunities for them to get to the place where they need to be.
Dr. Joseph?
Yeah, I want to take this to a conversation in the battle of the sexes, or let's just say the genders. The 2.1, which John so nicely tells us about, it has nothing to do with John. It has to do with his wife. Because the 2.1 replacement is a woman 2.1. Think about it. Only women have children. So therefore, the replacement of the next generation is only counted by how many children women have. You all still with me on this? I used to teach college biology, so you could see me go in there. It's the replacement is about women. So we have to ask, are women having children, and why they're not having children? And then we have to ask the question, because I have to represent, I'm the only woman up here, we have to ask, as women choose to have children or not have children, what is the impact on the workforce? Because women are now fully represented, 50%, some in many places or more in the workforce. It depends on where you are. But if we look at college and where women are achieving education, my campus is 60% female. Across America, more women are going to colleges. If you look at campuses like ours, which are regional campuses disproportionately produce college degrees in America. We all hear about the big schools, literally the big dogs. We all hear about them in the newspapers. But those campuses that we all hear about, the big ones, they are not producing as many college graduates as the regional campuses like ours. We are the bread and butter, the meat and potatoes, and our campuses are disproportionately women. Mm-hmm. So I have a couple of things to say. One is, I had my 3 kids, so I did my 2.1. Okay? So I did my 2.1 and a little extra for somebody. My daughters-in-law have to come up with their 2.1. My sons are irrelevant in the conversation. Women have kids. But as we think about the future, we think about these children that we are having or not having, my concern as a mother of 3 sons and 3 grandsons is what is happening in our families that's not bringing more men into higher education. Oh, look, I got an applause. And I probably have a disproportionately female audience here, so the women are like, why is she advocating for men? Because I always believe the people with the power should advocate for the people without. And my concern is, as a person who is responsible for generational change, for my students and fathers, is I would like to see more young men engage in the power of education. I would like to see more young men graduate from college. We were looking at some data recently, and John got the prize for, was it growth? No, which prize did you get? The chancellor was given different prizes. Retention, but we all got little awards or honorable mentions from the chancellor. But our campuses are growing. But one of the numbers we were talking about is that we have seen the increase in black students at our USG campuses, University System of Georgia. For the first time, we saw an uptick, which is a good thing. It's always been sort of flat, 31, 32, 30, but it's now like almost 34%. So we had like a 2% jump. That's a good thing for Georgia. But I would tell you, it's disproportionately women. And for us to get those babies we want, we need men to step up, because we do have the babies, so we need some help.
Okay.
So here's it.
She was looking at me.
I could look over here, I could look anywhere. But, you were paying attention, so you caught my, no disrespect. But we do need to get men engaged, because the reason we're not having these babies is because we can't find the right men to have them with, and we can't find the right men. No, I know it's going to be hard for you, but deal with it. Women can't find the right men to deal with it, because we have this problem of education that is not balanced. So women are not getting into these relationships. I talk to these young women, and I'm not picking on anybody, because of the difference in the education, the difference in the conversations. And women are struggling because men are not choosing education the way they used to. So I'm asking my sisters of all persuasion, how do we help our young men re-engage in finishing high school and going to college? How do we get back a balance in people going for and attaining higher education, so we could sustain the balance in the workplace, so we could sustain the balance in who has the 2.1 kids, so that this whole generation of stresses that we're feeling is somehow shifted back to that middle ground?
Well, let me ask the gentleman, how, I'm going to veer off from my questions, but how do we address that? Getting more men, higher education.
We're going this way.
Oh, my God.
Oh, you're punting that one now.
Wow, this is,
No pressure, John.
oh, lots of pressure right now. It's absolutely lots of, and I have three. Two of mine are boys, and one's a college graduate, and one isn't. My kids are like morning, noon, and night. I have a school teacher, an architect, and a Navy vet who is a truck driver. So morning, noon, and night. Wow, your question is one that's difficult for me to answer, because my inspiration came from home, and so we're getting real deep and perhaps veering from the topic, but my inspiration came from home. That's all I knew, is that my next step was going to be college. My mother was a teacher, my father was a teacher, but my mother passed when I was 4 and a half. And so this is something different I'm going to share. My father raised me. So it was him. And so I came from one of those homes that's probably different, that I had a single parent for most of the time, but it happened to be my father. But he was an educator, and it was instilled into me early that, this is the best opportunity for you to go on and get a 4-year degree, for you to change your life. And so that's what I understood. And so I think it's deeper than us catching the men when they're in high school or even middle school. And so it's really going to take a village, because of how the communities are kind of broken up, and that's for another conversation. But it really does it really is going to take a village, and programs and institutions as well being engaged, and not just institutional interactions with, higher ed institutional interactions with our students, but in the communities. And, we're in middle schools doing financial literacy. We're in middle schools talking about STEM. So the fast answer is it's going to take the entire community. It's, yes, it can start at home, but if home isn't where it starts, there's a responsibility that we have to take as institutional leaders, as well as business and industry, because all you're doing is preparing your workforce for the future as well. So we have to get engaged early.
Yeah, there's a lot there to unpack. I'm really curious to see how the young lady over here is capturing all of this on her drawing. But I think maybe there's an opportunity to recapture a little bit of a sense of adventure and a little bit of a sense of purpose as it relates to higher ed. I think sometimes we are all guilty of a narrative that says, well, why should I go to college? Well, go to college because you want to get a good job. Well, absolutely. Who doesn't want to get a good job, right? That's there. And we kind of sometimes skip over some of the most important parts of college. And I'm gonna ask y'all a question. I'm gonna ask y'all two questions. We hold these truths to be self-evident. Where did that come from? What document did that come from?
Bill of Rights. Bill of Rights.
Close. Declaration, thank you. Declaration of Independence, yes. Who wrote, I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings? Maya Angelou. Okay. Now, imagine a world where we ask that, and everybody looks at you with blank stares, has no idea what you're talking about until they pull open this thing and say, chat, can you tell me, Siri, who wrote this? Do we want that type of world? No, you want people walking around with that. You want people having the opportunity to explore the beauties of literature from all cultures and backgrounds. You want people to understand our history. You want people to understand economics. You want people to understand the cool things in science, be exposed to the arts, be exposed to music, be exposed to all of those things. We sometimes give it short shrift. We sometimes are like, oh, you just need to get through that at college so you can get to this job training. Folks, if it's only job training, there's probably people who can do it better. There's a reason college brings all of these things together, and it's because it helps people to live a more full life. Men, women, black, Hispanic, white, doesn't matter. It helps you to live a fuller life. And I think that's one of the things that maybe we can do a better job of in the world of higher education, is not apologize for, but rather embrace that core curriculum and invite all of our students into it as the opportunity to learn more about themselves, learn more about their community, learn more about who they are, why they're here, and what they're called to do, right? Get them excited about it. Get them excited about it. And I think that, in turn, will engage those young men into college. And that's what I hear. I have 6 boys, 6 girls, and boys all the way from, Georgia Tech and like a language expert and like Farsi and Russian, our 23-year-olds like that, right? And another one who's, his thing right now is like, I'm working 3rd shift at one of the flooring companies. But they seem to really desire that sense of adventure, but they'll have fun reading the Aeneid. They're all doing that as a group read right now, reading the Aeneid, an ancient book of literature. And I'm kind of like, well, maybe we do that at college and enjoy that and experiment on that front. So I just think there's an opportunity there to kind of recapture people's imagination and make it exciting and make it fun and making it engaging.
So during your introductions, I was struck by how diverse your campuses are. And a few months ago, I wrote a story about, is Atlanta still the black mecca for higher education? I'm not sure if you saw that, but we featured Clayton State as a very diverse school. So I want to talk about so many communities face barriers to higher education.
Yes.
So what steps are each of your universities taking to reach underrepresented populations and ensure equitable access to opportunities? So let's start with you.
Yeah. You know, I don't want to pretend we're just shooting fish in a barrel, but we are in Gwinnett County, which is one of the most diverse counties in the nation, and 75% of our students come from Gwinnett County. But one of the things that I learned very early when we talked about these words that we can't discuss anymore was that you could bring people to the dance. You could invite people in. And we've all been in middle school where everybody lines around the wall. And we've all been invited to the dance, so to speak, but nobody invited us onto the dance floor. The key to it is that we could all be present, but unless somebody invites you in and teach you how to dance, you could go to the dance hall every night and not actually know how to do it. So one of the things we know is that we have a space where people come, but the question is, and you know, Dr. Fujko spoke to this already, about your campus belonging, and how does a person come to that campus and really truly believe that they belong there. So that's one of the first things we try to do, is to really share with our students that we're in a place that they could become everything that they want to be. One of our taglines that we work with is find your place, find your passion, find your purpose. So at Georgia Gwinnett, we believe we have the right place. We believe we could provide the resources so that they could develop the passion. But mostly we believe that when they leave us, they have purpose in their lives and they can make a difference in the world. Because one of the best lessons I learned, and I shared this with my colleagues, is that it was the last day of my last class, because we had a cohort model where I went to school, and some of y'all are like, where is she from? I'm from Trinidad, so you could hear the accent. But when I was finishing my undergraduate degree, I remember being in that Friday afternoon last class, and I'm thinking, I am good, I'm done this degree, time to move on with my life. I had 2 young babies, and I just wanted to go off and just do stuff. And I would never forget the professor said, well, you all think you're all done. And this is your last class, and you think everything's finished. Here's what you've been doing for the last few years. You've been learning to learn. And I was like, darn it, I thought I was done learning. But he impressed upon us the point of our college degree was not as a finish, but truly, back in the day we didn't use the word commencement, it was still graduation. But it was truly a beginning. So what we had spent the years doing is learning to learn. And sometimes we're so busy, especially with our first-generation students, trying to get them ready for a job, that we forget that we're getting them ready for life. And that's where we need all of you all to help us. Because engaging with our community, helping them make that transition as they work in part-time jobs or internships and all those things that we want to do with you, is where we prepare them to keep learning. We're preparing them to pursue not just passion, but the place becomes your place, not just our campus, but now they're in your place. They would have brought passion, and they could pursue purposeful lives in your communities as well. So that's what we're doing at Georgia Gwinnett.
I think our mission speaks to the question. And if you come on our campus, our mission is really simple and straightforward. Our mission is social mobility. We transform lives through teaching, scholarship, and service. It's real simple. So you combine that with some of the demographics that I shared with you. What I think I excluded is the adjusted gross income of a family at Clayton State University is, for families coming in, is less than $29,000 a year. So there's 26 schools in the university system of Georgia. We're number 25 of 26. And normally when you look at that adjusted gross income and you look at other factors, it's going to fit directly with the question of the population of underrepresented students. I mentioned that early, first gen. I think it's about 77% of our full-time students are first generation. And so some things that we do, well, first of all, everything we do on campus, that is the foundation. Whether it's a new academic program, it's a study abroad trip that students need to engage in because it will change their life. but many students can't go if they have to take care of life back here. And so we have to think about how does this fit with our mission and how can we support students in doing that. So one of the things that we do it's a way for us to share best practices. We have a social mobility summit, and that summit is all about sharing best practices of breaking down barriers so our students can persist towards graduation. And most of those barriers, they're not academic. It's childcare, it's transportation, it's I want to go on the study abroad trip, but I have to work, or I don't have the money for that. And so everything we do is to put our students in the best position for them to be successful in the long run. They should have every opportunity that any other student has, and we have to work in order to create opportunities for them to do that. So I think that's how we address that directly.
Yes.
Yeah, so I'll just offer a few thoughts. One, leadership to me in this is super important. And I would tell you, we're relatively small. We're operationally a very efficient institution. I don't have a ton of VPs, and none of my colleagues up here do as well. And one of the conversations that we had when I was first there was, do we have a chief diversity officer or a chief one of this? And I said, you know what? Every one of you is responsible for that. This isn't going to be something that we're relegating off to any one group. If you've got a leadership title, you have a responsibility to care for every one of our students. And then we said, well, how do we actually do that? And so some of the things that I would tell you, I teach a class, pretty much all of my academic administrators teach. And you'd be surprised how connected that allows me to be, because I'm directly seeing, I'm also hearing when the faculty don't like something, dealing with a IT system or something like, oh yeah, I had to do that too. Now I know what they're talking about, right? So it helps from that perspective, but being able to kind of see directly what our students are dealing with. I'll give you an example. I'm teaching a foreign affairs class in the spring, and when I taught it a year and a half ago, we had a young man, Hispanic young man. On Mondays, the guy, he was always dragging, right? It was a 3:30 class. He's always tired. And I'm asking him, what's going on? He's a good student, really quiet, but a good student. What's going on? And he was working 3 shifts at one of our carpet industries over the weekend. His mom's shift that she worked, single mom, he had to take his little sisters to school in the morning. So he basically got no sleep over the weekend, then had to get his sisters to school, and then was coming to class. And I'll tell you, just that own direct experience I had, kind of removed from the statistics of what people are dealing with, said, oh, well, what are some of the things now that we can do just in my own class to help you stay in the workforce, right? He's in the workforce, he's doing it because he needs to do it, but what can I also do so that we can help you be successful and to get through college, and so maybe you can have that better experience for you and your family. So I share all that to say I think the leadership piece in this is huge, and that's what I would maybe ask all of you in this room as a takeaway. Whatever your role is, if you don't think part of your role is creating an environment in which every person as a part of your organization can thrive, then you're probably missing the boat on what it means to be a leader, because to me that is a core leadership competency. The second piece, we do peer tutoring, which has been incredibly successful in helping our students to get through. But we do one thing that's really neat, and we do it right now in our School of Business, but we're going to expand it across our campus. And we have, as a part of their capstone, a series of things that we think of as preparing them for success, right? So one of those, and don't laugh, please, is an etiquette dinner. We have an etiquette dinner for our students. We have CEOs, retired CEOs, whatever. They come out, they sit at a table just like one of these right here, and the students show up. We have a site on campus where they can get a free suit, they can get a free, professional dress, men, women, doesn't matter. It's there. If they can't afford it, they get it. They know how to tie their tie. They know which side the fork and the spoon and the knife is supposed to be on. And then as a part of that, too, kind of connected to that, they have a mock interview. And they don't just do a mock interview. They have a email, they have a cover letter, they have a resume, all of this that they've put together with guidance. They send it to the CEO or a retired CEO or somebody at that level, C-suite level, and they go and they do an interview with this person. I can't tell you how many of our students have gotten hired in the mock interview because that employer was so impressed with what they saw. But I also would say we can't take things for granted, right? And so what all of us who maybe grew up with that experience take for granted is we know all that stuff. We're comfortable walking in a room. We're comfortable knowing what to do. We don't even think about it. But think about somebody who nobody in their family's gone to college. Nobody in their family has ever interviewed for a quote-unquote professional job. And we throw them out at the end of 4 or 5 or 6 years of college education and say, good luck. And they walk into a situation and they've never had that exposure. They're not going to be confident, right? They're going to make silly mistakes or silly errors. They're not going to pay attention and double check the spelling on their email, right, where they're sending this thing in. And so maybe it sounds simple, maybe it sounds silly, I don't know. But I will tell you, for our students, so many of our students have gotten jobs because of this. I hear it from employers, how impressed they are. They say, your students come in, they say, we'll get students, not from Clayton State or Georgia Gwinnett. Schools outside of Georgia. They'll come in and they've got, keychains hanging from their side and they are maybe 5 minutes late and da-da-da-da-da-da-da, and they're kind of like, what's up? And, just casual talk, and it's too comfortable, right? And they was like, we know it's a Dalton State student as soon as they walk in because of how they present themselves. So I think that goes very much to your question, Ernie, of how do you, on a practical level, you've got to kind of put yourself back into the shoes of, I haven't had all this worldly success or whatever, and say, how do I actually kind of put myself back in that spot and give people that opportunity so that they can show who they really are, but show it in a way that shows them off and gives them opportunities that they wouldn't get otherwise.
Okay. So we have 2 minutes left. So you guys have had a great, fantastic conversation. So I want us to close on one final question. And this is kind of the question as to what the panel is. Unlocking Georgia's economic potential through workforce innovation. So with that topic, what do you want your listeners to get out of that as we leave?
I would just say we have all talked about our campuses and we've all given examples. And to be reminded that even though we spoke on different things, there are commonalities in everything that was described, not just on our 3 campuses, but on all the campuses across the system. But you know us, you met us. And here's what I would leave you with, is that we need your help to prepare the workforce for you. So the examples that Dr. Fuchu has described, we have very similar programs on all our campuses. Sign up. Sign up to work with us. Sign up to help us review our curriculum. Sign up to help us help our students. Some of you're wearing a really nice suit today and you're not going to wear it again. Donate it to one of our closets. We all have these special closets to help students. Sign up to do the mock interviews. Sign up to offer internships. I would just tell you, you need to start paying forward so that you could help us prepare the student that would become the employee for you. We are doing the best we can. We need your support as well.
All right, we have 31 seconds. All right. This is going to sound real transactional, but it's simple as this. We need you to be partners with us. We need our students to have experiential learning with you. Most of our students can't do an internship if they're not paid. So we need to work together to support the students so they can have the experience you want so you can hire them. John.
Yeah, that'd be my challenge. Go back, check out your HR. Do you offer internships? Where do you go for your career fairs? Do you go to Clayton State? Do you go to Georgia Gwinnett? Do you go to Dalton State? or do you limit it to the big schools where those students already have those opportunities? So what are you doing as an employer to provide those opportunities? You'll get some great students, and you'll get a representative group of what makes Georgia great. Thank you all.
Thank you all.
Thank you very much. This is a fantastic conversation. I'll give a round of applause to Dr. Foucault, Dr. Joseph, Dr. Lewis. Round of applause. Thank you very much.